And we're live. Pep Talk UK. Kenny, what is going on, my friend?
Your guess is as good as mine because I just got the
What
announcement
is going
about
on, Kenny?
well, it's COVID-19, and that's the realities of the pandemic, where you've seen it in the European Championships, you've seen it in the Premiership, you've seen it for the last 16 months. This is the reality of the situation. There's outbreaks in the cricket, especially with England's one day team, and so it's one of those things where people, responsible people who run multi-million-dollar industries, which is Tyson Fury, would have be doing regular tests. But it's one of those things where someone within his camp is, like I said, tested positive. I'll be furious between me and you if it's anyone who is not connected to the fight, i.e., the boxer himself or any of the trainers or anyone who's doing the day-to-day. But if it's someone who's been allowed in the camp, and someone from the outside, then I wouldn't be too happy. But that is the whole situation. You can't assure if someone gets it from Tyson's thing, you've got to think about the referee who's going to referee the fights. You also got to think about the opposition, Deontay Wilder, as well, because this isn't flu. This is a pandemic where we've been shut down all over the world. So again, it's really, really shocking news, and it's just another situation where boxing is not going to come in a good light. We've had all the preparations. We know it's going to be Fox. We know it's going to be on top rate. We haven't got a pay-per-view, partner in England, and this is just it's a farce. It's a farce.
I can't believe it. Guys, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Pep Talk UK, get your comments in. Do you think this will be postponed? According to Mike Coppinger's ESPN article today, there is a major COVID outbreak in Tyson Fury's camp, which could mean, and he says it's incredibly likely that it will be delayed. He mentions that, as you say, Kenny, it's a shared pay-per-view between ESPN Plus pay-per-view and Fox pay-per-view, and Fox have got a pay-per-view on the 21st of August in Errol Spence versus Manny Pacquiao. So that's that pay-per-view taken up. So it could be September.
It's highly going to be in September, which actually coincides with the proposed fight between Anthony Joshua and Alexander Usyk at the new Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, which is very convenient because we're Arsenal, my team, will be playing Tottenham at the Emirates, but they've moved that to the Sunday for TV purposes. But obviously, again, it's just a clash between Arsenal and Tottenham fans. But there's loads of Arsenal fans like myself who would like to attend this fight. But in terms of like this whole situation, again, it's a situation where there's no outcome because Dillian White, he's going to be fighting. We presume next month in the United States. So again, what's going to happen with him? Is this fight ever going to take place? Because contractually it will have to take place. But what we just need to know. We need confirmation.
Yep.
Very hard confirmation. Something has to be come from the Fury camp. I don't know if anyone's got any links to Frank Warren or got any contact deals with Frank Warren to find out what's going on. Who can verify them with like with Bob Arum. But Frank Warren is Tyson Fury's British representative, so we're going to need to hear something from Frank Warren because I've been looking at any of the TV stations, looking at Sky, which is the 24 news channel. I haven't heard anything officially from them yet, but Mike Coppinger isn't, an unreliable source of evidence. He brought us the news of Eddie Hearn, defecting to the zone. Everything he said is spot on. So he's a trusted communicator within boxing circles, and people trust him to bring the news. Obviously, they may not like the fact that he's done it earlier than thought, but it's come from Mike Coppinger. This has also been like I said, relayed by Mike Benson as well, another boxing podcaster who's got huge respect. So it's coming from these sides. We haven't heard anything officially from England, but it is a worrying situation because again, it doesn't look good for heavyweight boxing. Doesn't look good, and again, it just all it does is give succor to to any critics of Tyson Fury, even though it's a pandemic, it's COVID. But again, people who I've spoken to who think that Tyson Fury doesn't want to participate, blah blah, he's not to blame for that. But you can't blame Tyson for this. But again, it's just this wretched disease. But there's going to be people, unfortunately, going to look at the antics that went on. Firstly, if we get a sort of a timeline, December, Tyson Fury's meant to come to this country, have a fight, and he no matter what happened, he was going to fight in December. Couldn't get a gate, couldn't get a crowd, no fight. And then he's meant to be fighting Joshua. And then we hear we're late May and June that after all he couldn't get a fight because he's legally contracted to fight Deontay Wilder. Another delay, and now this. It's not a good year for Tyson Fury. It's not a good year, and this is the sort of thing that could tip him over the edge from a mental perspective.
It is, and look, the beginning of last year, Tyson Fury was riding the crest of a wave. He just knocked out Deontay Wilder in incredible fashion. He was the WBC champion, the Ring Magazine champion, and he looked like he was at the peak of his career. And then the pandemic's really come at probably the worst time for him and for the heavyweight division, because I genuinely believe, Kenny, that if it wasn't for the pandemic, we would have already seen Fury AJ by now. Because
we would have had to see the Fury versus Wilder 3 first. So pandemic or no pandemic, we would have seen 2 fights. But it's gonna come to a situation where AJ is not going to hang around. We all talk about what's the name just to check some information because it's best big. I'm just to check everything's about football. Yes, it's actually in the Daily Mail, and this is reported from Ollie Gamp, and he's saying the same information as well. The title is Tyson Fury's trilogy fight against Deontay Wilder set to be postponed due to the COVID outbreak in the Gypsy Kings training camp, with the Las Vegas bout likely to be pushed back from the 24th of July to September. So that's the same information you had. But we've had nothing official. We have had nothing official from Tyson Fury. We had nothing official from Frank Warren. Frank Warren, again, we're going to find out who has actual genuine influence within the Tyson Fury camp. What about his managers, MTK? Have we heard anything from them? Because this is a massive, massive fight, and it's basically shaping the destiny of a possible path for any of these heavyweights to become the undisputed champion. And yet these two guys who are deemed to be 1 and 2 can't get the fights together. Because Joshua isn't exactly like blameless. We all knew you've known for a good few years, few weeks that you've got to fight Usyk. Why haven't we got his nailed down? We know Sky are ready to show a fight. We know we've got the genuines. What hasn't been agreed?
Yeah,
I don't understand what's going on.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Here we go. This is Dan Raphael, another respected boxing source. He's just tweeted Fury Wilder 3 statement from TR Boxing on the status of the fight. We continue to monitor the health status of Tyson and his team, and the status of the event has not changed the date. But just because it hasn't changed the date, that's probably changed the date yet, because we don't know how bad this is and who actually has got COVID.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because it could be maybe 3 of the wider camp, but if Stewart, or dare I say Tyson Fury himself, then in my opinion, I'm pretty confident in saying that if Tyson Fury has COVID right now, that fight is not
It's
happening
definitely not.
in
But then,
two and a half weeks.
but then again, it's the same situation as well. If his trainer has it, like I said, Sugar Hill has COVID. There's a problem. If his second trainer, if his brother Shane has it, because Shane is very much part of the camp. So that's the situation. If Tommy Fury, who again, who's out there, who's been out there as well. Although I don't know if he's out there at the moment. He's probably back in England.
I think
he's back in England. So that's not an issue. But his brother Shane's out there. There's other
Tim.
cousins. Tim,
I'm sure Tim, his friend Tim's there.
Tim's there. So again, which one of them have contracted COVID? Because surely when you've got a situation where it's a big fight, this is when, from about the beginning of this month, you go into a bubble. You go into a bubble. So how has this happened? What, you know what I mean? Who's been careless? Who's been where's the regular testing?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, today, Kenny, I was at the Lyndon Arthur press conference and I spoke to Frank Warren, and there was absolutely no mention of anything. There was no whispers between people behind closed doors. I kept an ear out for anything, like I always do, and there was nothing, and that's why this was a huge shock to me. So, and judging by the vibe of today, Frank Warren was buzzing about
but how much
Fury Wilder.
How much influence has Frank really got? Because he got with Tyson Fury, because this fight is going to be held in the United States.
Yeah,
it's very much Bob Arum promotion, and it's a co-promoted with Fox in order to put more revenue into Tyson Fury's pocket, as is Deontay Wilder. So again, because the other day you interviewed him. What time did you speak to Frank today?
About 1 o'clock. About 1 o'clock.
All right, so you spoke to him at 1 o'clock. We've just got you. We've been contacting. We got this announcement at 6 o'clock. So something must have happened after that thing. So Frank may not know, but he knows he is going to be aware of something now, which is that's why it's very important.
Everyone is,
the situation is, and it's better to come from Frank. We don't want a situation where we're going to ask someone like Sam Jones, who's only going to be who's in a boxing. Obviously he's within the boxing circles, but he's not directly involved in Fury camp. And at the moment, we're not hearing anything from any sports shows. I've got Sky Sports News on. I'm going to go on Sky News to see if they've got anything, because I'm very, very, as you can hear from my voice, I'm frustrated just as much as you are. I'm very frustrated by this, because it's carelessness. It's carelessness.
It is. It is. I'm shocked. I must admit, I'm shocked. Similarly to when, again, Mike Coppinger broke the news that Fury Joshua wasn't happening. It's just one of them shocking things that you don't actually see coming. And Frank sounded very confident today that it was going to be announced on BT Box Office. So that he said, watch your space, and judging by the way he was talking, reading between the lines, that I think that would have been announced as a BT Box Office show in the coming days, potentially even on Saturday night during the Lyndon Arthur versus Faraci fight night. It would have been a fantastic double header, obviously because Joe Joyce and Takam's also earlier on in the night. So I just pray to God it is happening.
Well, definitely it's happened, but then again, this is another farcical situation as well, where, again, we have no announcement whatsoever about which British partner he's going to be showing his fight. This is Tyson Fury. Under any circumstances, he would have been fighting for an undisputed title, either by this time, even by now, or because of Olympic commitments of Rob McCracken, he'd have been fighting probably at the same time, September 25th in Dubai. So again, this is not good. Are BT Sport serious about their commitment to boxing? We know BT Sport, are looking at their sports coverage. They're looking for partners in it. They've given up their coverage of the FA Cup. ITV have got those rights for the FA Cup, so the FA Cup final next season will be shown on ITV and BBC One, and we're not too sure about the Premiership coverage. There's talk about the Zone, having a sniff. Are they going to be going after BT's rights again? That's another situation which is going to be buried because of this announcement. There's nothing about this whole situation stinks of reeks of competence. It just stinks of incompetence from day one.
I think the whole heavyweight division is looking a bit like that at the minute, just because I don't. We haven't seen a heavyweight champion in the ring since December, and that was Anthony Joshua. We haven't seen the WBC champion in the ring.
Well. In fact, 2,000
only 1,000. I thought it was only 1,000.
It's only 1,000 because, it's only 1,000 because it was an indoor situation, which we were grateful for. But this is the sort of things why people turn away from the sport. Because what's happened, we're trying to attract people who buy Sky subscription for other sports and say, right, we're going to give you an event. We now have a situation where someone's being responsible. Well, we can't have this event. And then we're not even sure where we're going to watch it on TV. And then what happens, it lends itself to these YouTubers that I'm against, because these YouTubers, whatever you think about them, they're not doing anything great for sport. It's just to get views. But they turn up for work. They're more professional than the people who are part of sport. And this is what's going to happen, is that you're going to get people who are going to turn away from the sport and then look at the situation. They're going to look at, I can't complain about Eddie Hearn's talent or these fights that Eddie Hearn or Wasserman are going to be put on, because we've got a blue ribbon department where it's a farce. It's an absolute farce.
I just think that obviously when it comes to the COVID, obviously slightly different, because it can't. I know obviously you've got to be safe, but sometimes it does just happen. Like obviously, because it as we have found out in the last year, 18 months, that COVID can be spread very easily between people. Just reading this out, this was a Sky Sports update. They've said that Tyson Fury's promoters Top Rank have rejected a report claiming that the trilogy fight against Deontay Wilder has been postponed. So they're rejecting it, but they would at the minute. They would at the minute, so we don't know for sure. And again, it goes back to that statement about we continue to monitor the health status of Tyson and his team, and the status of the event has not changed. The date, and they've asked Wilder's team to comment. He's chose not to, which is of Deontay Wilder's character at the minute. But again, it takes me back to, I can't remember exactly who said it, but when they said, why is football so much more popular than boxing? And I think a massive part of it is if Arsenal versus West Ham are playing next Saturday, and 3 players from either side get injured, it don't mean that the match gets postponed.
Definitely not. But I think what's happened
if one of the fighters gets injured, then the fight is postponed, and that's the uncertainty of boxing.
Yeah, I think in that respect, we have had situations where last season, obviously, because we're very much in our infancy when it came to like the COVID situation. Remember the Premiership, I said, you had the Project Restart last season where matches commenced in June last year, but we were still having situations like in the beginning of the season just gone where Aston Villa, Newcastle had to postpone games because of COVID outbreaks. You have Man City doing the same things, and Everton. So it's one of those things where this is that now that wouldn't happen because we know more about the protocols. A situation. But again, from a selfish point of view, and I say this with the greatest respect for that, perhaps, just perhaps, sportsmen should consider in terms of like having these in terms of having these events, they have to look at the situation, look at the science. Should they be taking the vaccine? Should they be considering the Pfizer vaccine and the AstraZeneca
Yeah.
vaccine in order to protect themselves. Because at the end of the day, you're a highly paid sportsman. Where
Okay, we don't know if they've taken the vaccine. We're not sure.
we don't know. But if they haven't, this is another discussion within the whole situation. Is that moving forward, should all sports, particularly boxing, where you have a situation where you rely heavily on sponsorship, you rely heavily on ticket sales, you rely heavily, right, on TV and getting a TV date, because guess what? You may not have a specialised sports channel, but even if you have a specialised sports channel, that money may be on another event, a rugby event, like a football event, a basketball event, where you can't get a slot.
Yeah.
So people are talking about freedom of speech and saying I might be out of order, but hang on here. These are genuine events. Boxing doesn't have a fixture list. It's not like football, or where you've got a fixture list, or the tennis. You know full well that the Grand Slams are for 2 weeks. There's 4 Grand Slams, and they cover a 2-week period. One in Australia in late January, up until middle January, up until late January. You've got the French, late May, early June. You've got Wimbledon, late June, early July, and you've got Flushing Meadow, late August, September. We know that. It's a fixture list, but boxing does not have a fixture list.
No, it don't. And we've seen it this week even. Anthony Yard's opponent pulled out, and now Anthony Yard's not fighting. It's such an uncertain sport. And I think people do accept that. I think because that's the state of single person sport. Like we've seen Andy Murray talking about tennis in the past. He injured, and he suffered with bad injuries, which meant that obviously he wouldn't be able to compete. But obviously other matches go on, which has happened this weekend for the Frank Warren fight night, which has got quite a lot of talent on it. But having said that, now on to like the main mega fights, and this is probably it's probably the second biggest fight of the year so far, just behind I'd say probably Canelo, Billy Joe. It's on the same level of that, so it's a shame, and I just think maybe Team Fury could be questioned about how safe or not they are, but that all depends on who in his team has got it. And for you, Kenny, if you was Tyson Fury, what members of your team would you class as fundamentals?
Well, the simple reason is that you have to just have you have to have the people who are going to look after you. So you need a trainer. Yeah. You're going to need sparring partners who basically are going to have to go through those lateral flow tests. You've got your conditioner who you're going to need, in terms of like your muscles as well, in order for all your joints and your pain. And so you're going to need about a staff of about, if I'm being like economic, I'm probably going to say about 10 people within your camp, and that's it. That's it. If you look at the Premiership, right? Some of these players, their families haven't been able to go watch them fight. They haven't been able to do that because to watch them play matches, because we're under strict protocols. You can now watch your in European finals, especially where UEFA having test events for crowds. You could do that. In terms of like the Euros, which is the flagship tournament, European Championships, you could do that because we can get crowds in, but they're not allowed to travel. We have strict protocols. So again, I don't know what's going on. It could have been Tyson himself who's got it, but you have to be very restrictive about your entourage. I know it's hard out there, but that's the sacrifices you have to make. You know what I mean? When you do go to training camps, cricketers are doing this all over the place. They're going, their families not allowed to watch them fight, play cricket. There's Ashes tour in Australia where, because of the situation in Australia where the country's virtually locked down, especially in New South Wales, further down the line, they're not going to risk having anyone other than cricketers turn up for the Ashes, which means their families, which obviously, when you go on long tours, I'm not going to be there. But again, it's a situation. You have to do what's right for you, and you've got to realise that your jobs in terms of sports is very, very much dependent on these events going ahead. So you've got to look at ways to keep you safe, and if it means taking inoculations or vaccinations, you want to call them, then you have to look into it. You really have to look into it. You have to. It's not even. It's I know you've got your beliefs and everything. I have the greatest respect for that, but you're in a different position from me and you.
Yeah, 100%. And if you was Tyson Fury, Kenny, would you consider replacing parts of that team so the fight still goes ahead, depending on obviously which members?
You're going to have to, but again, it's a situation is that it leaves them a disadvantage because at the end of the day, you're bringing someone in at the 11th hour, and you'll have to hope that all the work's been done. You don't, because at the end of the day, when you're boxing, right, it's basically you and his opponent, which is going to be Deontay Wilder in the ring. It's all you, but you do want a situation where you're focused. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you want people who you want to be a situation where people know what they're doing. They're not asking, "Oh, how do you do this?" You want everyone to be singing from the same hymn sheet and to be going through the same training processes on a gradual process, but they're following the same plan going into the fight. So this is not good. 2 weeks before a fight, it's inevitable that if there is a situation and the second test, if does prove positive with someone close to his camp, then this fight's not happening. Can't happen.
Do you think Tyson Fury would consider replacing Sugar Hill Stewart if Sugar Hill got it?
Well, he probably wouldn't, because the simple reason is that if the fight doesn't go ahead, then they'll have to. Whatever happens is that the person who's got it goes into 7 days isolation, and the people in the camp go for a first 10 days, which means because of the amount of time, you're going to have to regroup and then look at another date that's convenient for the sports people. So we are talking September.
Is there any possible positive we can see from this? Because obviously AJ's fighting in September, so it looks like Fury could fight in September now. Does that just make it that little bit easier with timings in going ahead with the undisputed fight, whoever that may be?
Well, that's the thing. They're talking a good game, but it seems that one of the fighters is fed up with the whole situation. The money men Well, I think even Hearn's fed up of it, to be honest. But there's talk of that, having this fight at the end of December. But the more and more we have situations like this, if we ever have the Joshua Fury fight, then we're looking at probably February next year.
Yeah, even later. Even later. I'd say, depending where. Obviously, depending where.
Yeah. So basically, you're going to have a situation where either one of these fighters are going to be once a year fighters, not like what we had before, where they fight 2 or 3 times a year.
Yeah, and obviously, we see some fighters now. Gary Russell Jr. comes to mind. He only fights once a year, but I think, as we said before, I think AJ and Tyson Fury are the characters that want at least 2 fights a year, and especially Tyson Fury, because again, it goes back to his mental health and his sanity, and he needs to fight. And if this happens now, and he's been in training for all that time, and this fight gets postponed, which means another training camp, which means even more wear and tear on the body, which ultimately could kill the career. That may be one less fight. Do you think that could have a effect on Tyson Fury's mental health?
Well, yeah, because I don't think Tyson Fury loves the sport. I don't think he loves it. And what I mean is that he doesn't mind watching a boxing fight and go to an event to support his cousins and support his brothers, and that he loves that part. But being the centre of attention, that's just not for him. It puts some intolerable pressure on Tyson. There's no doubt that there are mental health issues. That most of it, like his appearances and his gesticulations is all for show in order to do the job, and that gives him a focus. But that's not him. That I still think there's issues there today, and I think the whole boxing circus is going to be part of it. And disappointment does have a big effect on your mental health.
Mm.
I don't care what anyone says, and I think
That's a good point. That's a good point there, Kenny.
And this is a disappointing situation. He wants to fight. He couldn't get a fight this December, so you've got to build him up. Then he wants to fight Joshua because there's an ego there, and then he has to fight Wilder, and that keeps him as, oh yeah, all right, I've beaten before, yeah, I've got to fight. And now this is very good for. And then again, you've got to think about what Wilder as well. He's a person who's clearly had a breakdown mentally about what's happened to him.
Yeah, and he could be waiting even longer before the fight. So that's a good point. I think people will forget about Deontay Wilder and this sort of thing.
But, and where does it leave him? If Tyson Fury, says I've had enough of this, I'm over this. I'm over this. Where's that going to leave him? Because up until February last year, he was the WBC heavyweight champion in the world.
Yeah.
Where's what's going to happen? Where's his fights? Is it going to be vacant?
What if Tyson Fury decides to hang the gloves up? Are you talking about, Kenny?
Well, yeah. Well, you can never rule it out with Tyson.
No, you couldn't.
You never rule it out with Tyson. He's the man of contradictions.
Would that mean we got Dillian Whyte versus Deontay Wilder for the vacant WBC title?
Well, you're gonna have to. If that happens, you're gonna have to wait a while because you might have to wait at the same time, maybe next year. Because if you look at it in a kind of like logical way, Deontay Wilder needs to be fresh. Dillian Whyte is fresh, but as far as Eddie Hearn wants Dillian Whyte to get a few, like straighteners before he fights a big fight. So he wants to
in America,
he wants him to make his money. He wants him to, in terms of like marketability of all boxers. Clearly, United States is the best place for it because the simple reason is that it's a big country and there's room for all sports to thrive. I'm not saying it's not like this in this country, but you do the maths. Football is the god in this country. It's God. It's basically 12 months a year, and then you've got a situation where the cricket in the summer is massive, and you can't say and tennis can't compete with that because the only thing. I say it's a great respect to British tennis fans or casual British tennis fans. If you take away Wimbledon, then they have no interest in any other tennis, unless they are genuine sports fans and tennis fans. We're getting casuals at the football.
I know we're all boxing fans, Kenny, but what sport would you say is bigger, cricket or boxing in this country?
Oh, cricket, definitely. Because simple reasons that cricket is our national sport of the summer. It's played in at public schools, and it's also played at junior levels as well. And for a lot of people, for a lot of sports fans, cricket is their football of the summer. The English, if England do badly at cricket, especially with the home series, it's a guaranteed fixture list as well. Because you look at cricket, that. The cricketing nations are going to tour here every summer. You're going to get at least 6 test matches, and then one at Lord's, one at the Oval, one at Trent Bridge, and then all the other grounds have to fight for it. Then you've got the one days as well, and plus you've got the domestic one day competitions as well, where one day cricket is becoming very big in this country. So it outstrips boxing and TV, particularly. The BBC now are falling in love back with cricket, and you've got Sky as well. Boxing does not have that. Until I see a boxing channel where you've got Sky Sports Boxing, then fine, you can say that. But we've got Sky Sports Premiership, Sky Sports Football, and a dedicated Sky Sports channel for cricket. So this is where the money is. And we even got one for Formula One. So cricket is bigger than boxing in this country. And golf, yes. So cricket, golf, and Formula One are bigger than boxing, according to the dedications we have in this channel from Sky, because they're the ones. And then obviously the BBC, they've lost a bit of interest in boxing as well, unless it's on radio.
Jason Mardonio Meza says Fury looking for a way out. Fury will be sued and stripped of the WBC belt if he refuses to fight Wilder. Kenny, do you think he could be stripped of the belt if his team have COVID and it gets postponed?
Well, it won't no, because they have to find another date. Because they,
Yeah.
as far as they're concerned, there's a medical issue, a genuine medical issue, which is which is like basically an issue that's affected everyone from all over the world. It's a pandemic. It's not an epidemic. It's a pandemic. So it's understandable. So nothing will happen to Tyson. But if he refuses to fight, and then yes, there's an issue where the WBC will have to act, because they've already, and there's also WBC. There's all the other belt organisations have basically been persuaded to step aside because of what's happened with their because we thought we were going to get an undisputed title fight between Joshua and Fury. We haven't had, so we're not getting that. So again, it depends, but I can't see, I can't rule it out. But Tyson Fury says he wants to defend his titles, so that's the situation. But if he doesn't, yes, then there's a problem.
Definitely. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Pet Talk UK. Get your reactions in to the breaking news that Team Fury has had an outbreak of COVID, which could mean that the fight gets postponed to September. Michael Buffer says, not Lee, obviously, says, you think that they are doing this to get UK fans to come out because they're not selling their tickets in Vegas, obviously, in September. Hopefully, fingers crossed, travel restrictions will be lifted. Do you think that's a possibility, Kenny?
I don't know, because simple reasons that we've seen evidence in other boxing fights where we've had full crowds, virtually full crowds. Canelo fights, even as early as like the full, what they call a full, we call it ultimate in this country, were getting 50,000 crowds.
Yeah.
We know that the fight between Canelo and Billy J. Saunders had a crowd of over 70,000 fans.
Yeah.
And it was in a sports stadium, so crowds will never be an issue. In terms of like whether this fight will sell, well, again, there's a lot of reticence from countries, especially in Europe and other countries in the United States, where people still see Britain as the COVID capital of the world because of the newsreels and the cases that's come out, and they know that there's an Indian variant which is having a huge effect on people in this country, obviously, because they're saying, because we have huge Asian Indian subcontinent community, that's going to cause effect. They're saying that there's something similar is happening in Australia. So whether they're going to allow British fans to go over is another issue, because you only have to look at the situation when England were playing Ukraine in Rome. There was no way like the countries that are still in the EU are basically put a big cross across fans coming from the UK. So again, there's always going to be conspiracy theories regarding Tyson Fury, boxing in general, because of what's happened with the postponement or the no-show, whatever you want to call it, of Fury Joshua. But people are always going to be skeptical. A good friend of mine, he just went up and he said, "Look, Tyson Fury wants to be on the beers because he wants to celebrate England getting to the final. He wants England to he wants to make sure that he either comes back to Wembley to get a ticket or just watches it. He doesn't want to be like throwing leather."
The thing is, though, in regards to the September fans going over there, I don't think there's a chance that fans will even be going over there in September, because it's hard enough. When you look at like the biggest boxing media in the UK, you look at, for example, Coogan. He couldn't even get a visa for the Canelo Billy Joe fight. British media can't get visas, let alone fans, and this is because of the new. As soon as Biden came in, he made much stricter rules about people entering the country.
Well, yeah,
Um,
because yeah, and that's exactly what's happened. And it's just for all sports and events as well. You know that it's very very restrictive. You know to get for media personnel, because at the end of the day the passes they're giving up is like first come first serve now, where normally you can get loads of press passes, everything. You have to look at the situation where even with the Premiership, everything's through Zoom now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the reality. Hopefully, by July the 19th, we're going to see a whole different situation. But what's free in England, what they say, doesn't mean that other countries are going to follow suit. Because other countries, and we can't guarantee that we're not going to need another booster injection for October.
Yeah, that's another big thing coming out now. Booster injections.
Yeah, because like change the subject slightly, but I'm an Arsenal fan, got an Arsenal season ticket. One of the things that we've been asked for, and what the Premiership were trying to propose, which I think has got agreement for the central government, is for everyone to have a COVID pass. So that way, if everyone's got a COVID pass, and to have a COVID pass, you have to have you either have to have a lateral flow test or both your vaccinations. So in the event of any lockdowns, fans can still attend these grounds because they've been
COVID test passes.
Pass. They've got that pass. So again, that is a lot of things that has to be done. But coming back to our original point, the reason why we're here, again, you have to, if it's true, then there's the biggest issue is, how safe are we making our bubbles? Should we be doing more? Or should we be considering, that if you're a professional sportsman, maybe you could get out to the floor? Should major sportsmen be vaccinated?
Again, we don't know if he has, because
we don't know. But
I
should
did
that be
read something that Bob Arum said Fury was vaccinated, but with this all coming out today, we just don't know.
But in terms of securing the event, because there's millions and millions of pounds going into organisation, there's millions of pounds in terms of to be had from ticket sales and also TV events and fighters for security. Should everyone who goes within a fighter's bubble, no vaccine, don't get in the bubble, because we have to look at it seriously. I'm not saying it should be compulsory, but it's an event, and that's the thing about being a sportsman. Everyone said, "Oh, why should sportsmen get special dispensation?" Well, nowadays, especially within this country, they're basically begging people your age to have their vaccine. They're begging you.
I still can't have mine yet, Kenny. I still can't have mine, but
but your age, people around your age, because at the end of the day, they're begging people to go and have their vaccine at every football ground. At the Emirates Stadium last week, they were asking people, because I work in London Borough of Islington, they're offering people steward work so they can actually steward people in to have their vaccines.
Yep. Jason Mardonio Meza says this, which I think is interesting, about could Fury now have a built-in excuse for September? If the fight goes ahead in September, do you think Fury, if he did lose that fight, do you think that's a built-in excuse that he had COVID, if it's actually him who had COVID?
Well, if he had COVID, then then it'd be very irresponsible of him to be fighting, because he shouldn't. Legally, he should be doing it, because at the end of the day, he's putting the health of his opponent, the referee, the handlers of both teams at risk. So he can't use that COVID excuse, because it'll be a worse PR thing. PR disaster for him, because you only have to look at that's happening here. People being suspended from their jobs because they breached lockdown rules. Look at Kay Burley, Mrs. Sky News, 6 months suspension. Matt Hancock, Mr. Health Secretary, lost his job not look, we all know it's because he was being naughty, but officially it's because he breached COVID restrictions, his own COVID restrictions. So they're coming down on people like with a ton of bricks, especially people in the public eye. So Tyson dare not try that one. Daren't.
Yeah, no, 100%. And if you are Deontay Wilder now, and you're hearing this news about this fight that you've trained for the past, I don't know, well, mentally trained for since last February, what are you thinking if you're Deontay Wilder right now?
Pissed off. I'll be pissed off. I'll be absolutely pissed off. I'll be aggrieved. I'll hate the world because simple reason is that, you know, this is a farce. This is an absolute outrage, an absolute farce of the highest quality. Because at the end of the day, you basically spent all 9 months in labour to the extent you've gone past your due date to get this fight, and now this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This because and then this happens. So the first thing you're going to do is that, hang on here. This is another list of reasons and grievances you're going to say. First, he said there's a grievance because he said that there was a interference in terms of like the gloves. They weren't using legal gloves. There was interference with his refreshments. Now he's going to say conveniently, so there's been issues with in terms of like COVID.
Yeah.
So again, it doesn't bode well for his mental health at all.
No, 100%. Quan Big Gun says Fury is scared of AJ and Wilder. He will avoid both of them. Key, do you think Fury's the type of guy that avoids AJ and Wilder?
Look, if it's genuinely COVID, then no, it can't be out. Cool. Legally, this fight can't go ahead. If Tyson Fury has COVID or anyone in his camp COVID, so he's not being scared, and it's just a rumor. But again, boxing's all about getting in the mind of your opponent. Someone like this can say, "Oh, put Deontay Wilder off his stride and say, he's going to take. I'm not feeling too good, so he's going to take me lightly, and I'm going to come and surprise him because, before his fight with Deontay Wilder, he feigned an injury, didn't he?
Yeah.
He feigned an injury. First, it was his leg, and there was all sorts of, talks of rumors around the cut he's sustaining against. He's sustaining his previous fight. You know what I mean? So again, it's one of those things where boxing's all about getting in the minds and creating creating something that's not there in order to create confusion, instability, and overconfidence, misplaced overconfidence. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, definitely, and that's the thing. Like the confidence, stability thing. That's why I don't want to say it, but if it was a mind game, do you think that it's a bit of a low blow if it's a mind game?
Boxing's full of low blows.
If the fight still goes ahead for the 24th, I'm saying.
Well, boxing's full of low blows. You've had revolting situations. It's like the wrestling where you have like trash talking and blah blah. It's all about selling fights because simple reasons that, how do I say it? You need an enemy. You need an enemy when you fight. You need a rivalry. You need to sell tickets. Someone has to be a bad guy. Doesn't matter who it is, but he has to be a bad guy. It helps if you're fighting someone from if two people from different countries are fighting. It's brilliant because simple reason is that you can go down the patriotic route. But if it's two people from the same country, then someone has to be a baddie. And to be that baddie, things have to be personal. I.e., David Hay, I'm going to threaten to cut your heads off and put you in hospital, and you're going to be in life support, all that sort of thing.
Deontay Wilder come under it when he fought Dominic Breazeale. He said he wants to kill him, and he got a lot of
but it got people talking. It got people watching. as far back, I am Mike Tyson. I want to kill him. I want to eat his children and blah blah. I want to, and they say something about people's wives and girlfriends. It's one of those things. Is that's what sells the fight.
Yeah.
Casual boxing fans do not want to hear it or want to tolerate boxers being mates. They're not having that. That's not what they're there. They want to see beef. They want to see a knockout, and they want to see serious anger in the ring. And they want it. They want it. They actually want it in a press conference. It doesn't matter what the British Board of Boxing stipulates or the WBC. We love all that. We love Derek Chisora throwing his tables about. We love Derek Chisora trying to put his head into someone else. We love him trying to plant a kiss on someone. We love all that. Oh, come on, I know it's too fun. I know it's perverse what I'm saying, but Derek Chisora and David Haye in Munich after the fight between the aftermath of the fight between Vasily Klitschko and Chisora.
Oh,
who didn't love all that? Who didn't love Chisora?
Oh, wow.
Say, fight, come and say it with face. David Haye, forgetting he has a bottle in his hand and thinking, right, he's coming for me. He's bigger than me. I'm going to hit him first and ask questions later. And the fact that Don Charles went and he got twatted as well. It was wrong. What happened? But,
we all loved it. We all loved it, really.
And what happened? We got a nice fight afterwards, didn't we? And that's what you want.
Yeah.
You want beef. You want beef.
Definitely.
Talking to Derek Chisora and David Haye, they're part of company, haven't they?
I know. I was shocked. Well, actually, I wasn't shocked. I'll be honest, I wasn't shocked because I think after that whole debacle about coming in first, I think
pathetic.
David Haye actually looked quite annoyed. And I said that on the live stream. I think David Haye actually looked quite annoyed at Derek Chisora for the first time. And I thought that was the first little dent I saw in their relationship. But it worked. It worked. Their relationship worked while it lasted.
It's unprofessional because the way I look at it this way, right? One thing about Derek Chisora, right, is that if he hasn't learned anything in 3 years, he's been working with David Haye, and he's a fool to himself. Because hopefully he would learn one thing. He would learn professionalism, diet, and preparation. Because simple reason is that David Haye's been the best thing that's happened to him.
Oh, we've lost Kenny there. We've lost Kenny. I'm sure he'll be back very, very soon. But if you're just joining the live, make sure you smash that like button, smash that subscribe button, Pep Talk UK, and get your reactions in. If anyone doesn't know, Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder has come under question whether it will go ahead on the 24th of July after reports that there has been an outbreak of COVID in Tyson Fury's cab. And look, as if by magic.
Come on, you can't get rid of me that easily. As I was saying before.
As you were saying, Kenny.
As I was saying before, in terms of Derek Chisora, he's made a lot of money. I'm not saying he wouldn't have made much money, but he's made a lot of money with David Haye. I'm sure David Haye's given me some business advice as well.
Yeah.
And I think David Haye's the best thing that's ever happened to his career. And I think any young boxers, you learn from David Haye. I'm sure, and Tony Bellew probably wouldn't want to admit it, but I'm sure Tony Bellew would have tapped into our David Haye's marketability, and they would have had chats about, as you're doing this, how can I do this? Because Tony Bellew, after he won the first fight with David Haye, said, "Look, I owe this man everything." I said, "Hang on, you two ain't chosen. No, this man has secured my family's life and my family's life." And in the second fight, he said the same thing. And I think he could have chosen anyone, but he chose me.
Yeah.
I don't
exactly.
recognise Tony Bellew. I don't recognise Tony Bellew since he fought David Haye twice because he looks more professional, more, in terms of everything seems on point with his life.
I think with Tony Bellew, it was like, get there, grit, hunger, family, rawness. And then when he got them fights, made that money, it was kind of like, wow, I'm there now. Now let's go and attempt greatness. Alexander Usyk has one final hurrah. Fell short that night. No shame in that against Alexander Usyk, and that's what I think. That is maybe why, although Derek Chisora has his moments, he may have mellowed slightly because he hasn't got that rawness. He hasn't. He's made his money where he hasn't got to throw tables across people. He ain't got to slap one of the Klitschko's. You know what I mean? It's not needed for him anymore. Possibly because he's built his name up enough where people are invested in him, and that's like Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury, we don't see the crazy Batman skits anymore. We don't see it because. On a promotional standpoint, fantastic, but is it needed? Probably not anymore because you reach a level where it's not needed. Someone, a fringe, maybe like British/European level fighter who's just working their way up there. They've got the talent. They may not have the financial stability. They've got to do that. They've got to make a name for themselves in such a crowded market, which is boxing.
Well, yeah, and it's a heavyweight. It's a heavyweight title scene as well. It's very crowded because they are good fighters, very good fighters, who would give everyone a good fight. I mean, you got Charles Martin, thinking, hang on here, Dillian White's coming to America and he's going to have these warrant fights. He's fought everyone and said that Dillian White would fight. Hang on, what about me? I'm a former world champion. So and that is a fact, and that's factual, and that's one of the reasons why he's there. And Dillian White is marketable, and this is all from basically from scratch. You think about it, where Dillian White was in the condition he was when he first fought AJ. All he had was his self-belief, and I've knocked him out before, and I've beaten him in the amateurs. It was actually to get him through those 7 rounds. It was just pure bloody mindedness. But after that fight, Eddie got hold of him, signed him, and he's become a more professional athlete. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. And we had a comment. I'll see if I can find it. Drawing similarities, but between this and the Klitschko fight back in the day with the rematch. Personally, I think that's different, obviously, because COVID is different to that. But could you draw any similarities between that? Here we go. Klitschko went through this BS with Fury. ... Groundhog Day.
Well, you like to think that because it's COVID, there's always going to be. You think, well, you can't do anything about COVID. You know what I mean? But in terms of like in the speculation and looking into every question, answering every question, which we do, and we do very well here. That is a very good point because this happened. Klitschko was frustrated. He agreed to a rematch. Tyson Fury turned up in a strange shape, and the next fight happened. Whether it was because it was to do with failing the drugs tests or injuries or mental health, it didn't happen. Now, and that's the thing with Tyson Fury as well, is that as much as there's a lot of support for Tyson Fury in this country because they feel they identify with him and they love the sort of spirit he brings, there's always going to be a situation where people went, do we actually trust him? Does he love boxing? Because of there's always been these episodes with him and there's always going to be this suspicion with him. Whilst with Joshua, you don't have that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah.
And we just don't know. We don't know. But whatever happens is that, if it is COVID, then, it's a situation where people have to be more professional and, stipulations have to be made. Yes, they may be challenged by the courts, but again, it's one of those things where governing bodies in all sports, not just boxing, have to look in the vaccine situation. You have to. I'm not, because simple reason is that you don't earn money without these events happening. You know what I mean? Sponsors sponsor you and invest in you because
for the fight nights.
It's because they at the end of the day, when you fight, they're all of their marketing on the shorts, on the boots, and the training gear they know they're going to see it in the fight, but they're not going to sponsor you if you're not going to have an event, they're
Yeah.
going to think, well, stuff you, mate. When are you getting on TV? Because yeah, Dave.
Oh, definitely,
How many
definitely.
boxers? How many boxers get big sponsorship if they're not on TV? Can't think of any. You'll get probably sponsored
Yeah.
by your local
Is it-
businessman or crowdfunded, but
Yeah.
not if you're not on TV.
Crowdfunding.
It's true.
Yeah.
That's a new phenomenon. Is crowdfunding or funding. On the GoFundMe. That is a phenomenon. You know what I mean?
Then we've got the opposite end of the spectrum. Someone with a complete differing opinion. Arsenal Manic says fight postponed because the Yank bum can't sell any tickets. No demand. And I know people have said about Deontay Wilder not selling tickets before, but let's see. Let's see.
I hear what you're saying, but again, it's one of those things where, again, I wish the American people would learn to love what they got into Deontay Wilder. And, again, if for some reason, that is one of the reasons why, perhaps heavyweight boxing does well outside of the United States, because obviously from the outside, I've got no evidence. But from the outsider, which is me, all I'm seeing, right, is situations where whenever there's a big event, the event that normally sells is if it's a Hispanic fighter.
That is true. Obviously, because
now the reason why people say I can source this evidence is because of the fights when we see at Madison Square Garden, the fights we're seeing in the United States, in parts of Texas and California and other countries. The fights involving Hispanic fighters sell well, but if you look at the fights that Josh Taylor was fighting Hispanic fighters that did well. What about when Crawford, when he fought, Kell Brook? Did that sell well in terms of tickets? I know it's COVID, but did it sell well? I'm not too sure.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing, right? We look at it from outsiders going in, though, because we aren't in the US, are we? Like, we see these Hispanic boxers and we look at it, and no one actually knows the figures. No one knows how tickets are selling, apart from probably T-Mobile Arena themselves and Top Rank and PBC. I doubt even at the minute Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder know, because it's out of their hand. It's not part of their responsibilities. They shouldn't even be worrying about it.
Yeah, but
Go on, Ken. No, go on, Ken.
No, all I'm trying to say is that how Tyson Fury is being promoted, it's been promoted. There's a lot of obviously you speak to people in the US and they say different. They're saying not all. They're aware of. They're saying that Tyson Fury is not as popular in the US as Anthony Joshua. Now, from us in the UK, we think it's the other way around. But a lot, we've had Bo saying something different.
Yeah, we have. We've had both from Free Kings Boxing say something different. And again, I don't know whether it can't be our ignorance. It's just the fact that we aren't there. We're not there to see it, and we see that. Young Johnson, Afilaka says Tyson Fury is now becoming a joke. First Klitschko, then AJ, now Wilder. Is there any truth in this? Do you think he could become a joke, Kenny?
Well, if you speak to a good friend of ours, Lady Chan, one of the things she says about Tyson Fury is that he doesn't participate, and that we're not seeing enough defense of his title, if any. And we obviously there's other reasons she mentioned about other reasons, but this is only giving this situation, if it happens, it's only going to give him succor to the viewpoint that Afilaka is suggested. Second Josh Johnson Afilaka has suggested that Tyson Fury is becoming a joke because it's this whole situation. Are we seeing enough of Tyson Fury in big fights? We see him, in terms of his heavyweight title fights, we see him win one. We see him fight, get a draw, and then fight one. But where's the defences? We haven't seen the defence. So, as boxing fans, are we getting value for money from Tyson Fury in the ring, as opposed to outside of the ring? Because we're getting a lot of value for money in terms of his story, the interest, in terms of like the views we can see on YouTube, the ratings for him when he goes on TV. But in terms of like actually wanting to fight, I feel great because I've seen Tyson Fury fight live. But there's a lot of people in this country who haven't had that opportunity.
What fight was you at, Kenny?
I was at the last time I saw Tyson Fury fight was the Derek Chisora second fight was in like at the XL Arena, and that's 7 years ago.
Yeah.
If we go, it was on the 29th of November 2014.
Yeah.
And then after,
good knowledge there, Kenny. Good knowledge there, Carl.
Yeah, and after that, it was Klitschko years, and then he retired or left for another sport, and he came back. There was fights in Northern Ireland, and then he went off to America.
I think he had one. I think he had one in Manchester, didn't he?
Yeah, one in Manchester. Then he went to America.
One in Northern Ireland. Went to America. Then obviously
we haven't seen him
stayed out there, and we haven't seen him back in this country since. Which is a shame. And obviously, I've never actually seen him live, which is something I would love to do.
It's very quick. It's an event itself. It's very if you support the other fighter, it's very frustrating if you're a fan of the other fighter, because another. If you're a fan of Derek Chisora, would have been frustrated because Derek Chisora didn't lay a glove on him. Couldn't. Even if he wanted to. And
especially in that second fight.
And he was fighting southpaw for a lot of the fight.
Yeah, and I'm just like looking at some of these comments here, and this always happens when we talk about Fury, Wilder, and often AJ, is that there's arguments between this one quit, this one's avoiding this one's doing that. Why, Kenny, is there's such a split? Why can't there be fans of all three? Like,
not
why?
True, because for simple reasons that's what boxing's about. If you've got a situation where it's one-on-one combats where physical violence has been inflicted on your mate, then you have to have someone to hate. You have to have someone who you love. You can't support the same fighter. We can. I'm a big fan of AJ and Tyson Fury and Dillian White, but we have to understand that it's not like football, cricket, Formula One, where you've got genuine fan. Especially football and cricket, where you got people who support different clubs or different counties can coexist. Boxing, for some reason, I just find it really sad. We're still having to sell ourselves. We're still having to sell the sport, and we found that the only way we could sell a sport is to make it more like the WWE, where there has to be a bad guy. There has to be.
And do you agree with that, Kenny?
Personally, not. But again, boxing, unfortunately, hasn't helped itself, and TV hasn't helped boxing. We had a situation where boxing was a highlight sport in the 70s, and I was late 70s when I was a toddler. And then in the 80s, it was definitely as a TV highlight sport, and then the odd fight was shown live. And it was only through ITV. First, BBC tried to do it, but ITV, with like when they try to get fights, Frank Warren first and Barry Hearn, obviously through Nigel Benn. Frank. I got to tell you something now. Frank Furino's fight with Tim Witherspoon in 1986, July 1986, at Wembley Stadium, right, wasn't shown live.
Was it at Wembley Stadium? That one?
Yeah, it was Wembley Stadium in 1986. Tim Witherspoon, where he lost in the 11th round. That was shown on the highlights show the next day on ITV. It wasn't shown live. You could hear it. You could listen to it on radio, but it wasn't shown live.
No, yeah.
So this is in 1986. So it took for the late 80s, 90s. The first fight I remember being shown live was 87, Joe Bugner versus Frank Bruno at White Hart Lane. That was a live event. And that was a genuine grudge match. That had to be shown live because Joe Bugner was the bad guy. Frank
Would,
Bruno,
and that there you go. There
Yeah.
were bad guys even then because
Yeah.
Joe Bugler was the typical bad guy, and that
Yeah.
was probably because he beat Henry Cooper, who was much
to this
loved. Yeah, to this day, obviously.
But you think about Joe Bugler and his wife,
Mm.
like really promoted that fight because his wife came along with him. Obviously Joe Bugler was Australian, then he became an Australian national, but everyone hated him. They absolutely hated him. People wanted Joe Bugler battered. They wanted him beaten. And it was actually stopped in. I think I'm getting around 8. It was actually stopped for Rio 1. But yeah, it was good versus evil.
Here we go. Haydar says this, which relates to what we're talking about. Eddie Hearn got to sign a deal with BBC to show the DAZN fights in a highlight pack. From a promotional sense for DAZN, that's fantastic. And in my opinion, I don't know what you think about that, Kenny. I think that's absolutely fantastic.
Well, it's a no-brainer as well because day no-brainer. The reason why is that he'd have been a bit of a wazzock or a pork chop if he didn't consider this, because the simple reason is that he isn't contracted to Sky no more. As far as he's concerned, the way he's selling himself, he's got basically creative control of everything DAZN in the UK, and that's probably which he was never going to get from Sky. He does a podcast with the BBC, so why not? And he did. Maybe I didn't hear it right, but thank you, Hader, for saying it. It has to happen. I don't know where it's going to be. What part of the BBC is it going to be? A BBC iPlay, or is it going to be or is it going to be a mainstream channel? Because there's loads of room.
I think it'd be absolutely fantastic if they had it straight after Match of the Day.
And I think
that spot would be brilliant.
Definitely. Another thing as well is we need to sell and promote the life out of the Olympics, because right now we're in a situation where, sadly, because of the events in Japan, there's going to be no crowds. There's going to be loads of sponsorship, but no crowds, which is sad. A couple of weeks ago, it was 10,000 tickets. It's clear that the Japanese government do not want the Olympics because of health reasons, and you can't change it at 11 hours because we postponed it last year because of COVID. Just like we postponed the European
and we have got
Championships.
an absolutely fantastic team boxing wise as well. We've got Big Fraser Clark. We've got the McCormack brothers. We've got Caroline Dubois.
Exactly.
I cannot wait.
Definitely.
For the Olympics.
Again, it's a situation where BBC have got an open go here. Got an absolute open go. I'm not saying that they should show fights live, but consider it as well. You managed to. You're doing a cricket again, but there's no, and you've got, and they got their partnership with Sky in terms of like Test cricket highlights. They're showing one day. They're showing the odd one-day game live, and plus the 100 in cricket. Obviously, I'm not a cricket fan, Joe, but the 100, the BBC and Sky are partnering up. Although Sky, obviously, they're the be all and end all. Yeah. But the BBC are going to be showing them. So again, you're in a situation where it's happening, and I don't see a reason why it shouldn't happen. Look what happened to the Cricket World Cup final last year, right? People in this country suddenly realised, right, that Sky had the exclusive rights and that Channel 4 were showing it on a highlights package. All of a sudden, right, they went, oh no, what's going to happen? England are in the final. Guess what? Pressure from central government said, right, boom, 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 please. And the ECB, and obviously with the the ICC said, no, show it on a terrestrial channel. So the 11th hour, we could either watch the World Cup final on Sky
Channel
Sports 4. Or Channel 4. And the reason why is because it was actually the ICC's channel. Sky didn't own the rights. They bought the rights to the ICC, but the ICC actually are in charge. So they just said, all right, no problem. So again, the BBC need to promote the life out of the thing, because there is a open goal now. Because don't get me wrong, I don't know about you, but I've had enough of watching cooking programs. Cooking programs.
I don't watch them.
But what's happening? My wife watches all that stuff, but like into the BBC package right now. we are sitting indoors watching a lot of sport because we can't go anywhere. So up your game, the BBC, mate. Get back with boxing. Boxing can do a nice little partner. We will watch. Definitely watch the grassroots. We don't want to just watch the BBC, the boxing on the Commonwealth Games and the Olympics. See what you got. You got rid of Cal. You're not showing Holby City no more, so you can save some money.
There's room in the schedule now. Holby City's gone.
Oh, definitely.
So we'll go for about another 5 minutes if that's okay, Kenny.
No problem.
Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and we'll just summarise tonight's events. We had the news that apparently, but it's still not confirmed, that Tyson Fury's team has contracted COVID, or a part of it his team has, which has led to some serious questions over the 24th of July still being the date for the third fight between Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. Kenny, what's your final thoughts on it?
Had it not been for COVID and the fact COVID outbreak, and it potentially, I would have said this is one of the biggest farces in boxing. It's still hard to comprehend. If it's a false dawn, which I hope it is, then we get back to normal. But again, it doesn't leave a good taste in its mouth either way. But if it actually happened, then boxing needs to look at itself. And I think not just boxing, every sport, and said, look, you've got to protect your events and you've got to protect your participants. And your participants have a responsibility to make sure these events go ahead. Especially when a sport like boxing, when you don't have a fixture list. Especially when you've got fight, say you have a situation where fans were allowed to travel and they book tickets to go and watch you fight, and then it's not happening. Look at the situation, speak with the medical associations in this country, and consider what's important. And if it means, taking any of the vaccinations, Pfizer or AstraZeneca, then I think sportsmen from all over the world have to look at it. We only have, look at what's happening in rugby with the Lions. That's an absolute farce.
Yeah, wow, yeah.
Farce. To this day, they still don't know what's going on.
When you look at the Euros, there's hardly been any.
In
the Euros,
because it's been organisation. Because people have done their jobs properly. Rugby's become a professional sport in the last 25 years. So you should act professionally, especially when you've known that every 4 years you're having Lions are going to go on tour. So this is a farce, absolute farce, and we don't want it. And unfortunately, my last point is that because of Tyson Fury and what we've seen in the past, it just gives succor to people who doubt his commitment to the sport we love, which is boxing.
And we do love boxing. There's times like this where it brings question into the sport, and we hate that, don't we?
Well, of course you hate that. But again, I'm not advocating the vaccine for normal people. But what's happening is that I can't think of any situation where things can be guaranteed. People say you could test them regularly, but what's the prevention? What's the prevention? Are we spread? We want to be able to stop the spread of this disease. There's never going to be a cure, but you want to have protection from the elements of which can cause serious illness. In some cases, death. So you want to have a situation where, we're not going to have a situation where you've got to postpone events, where or you've got to go into isolation. These are people's livelihoods at stake. And we're not just talking about the boxers, people behind the scenes. People who've got to work the events, the TV executives who get laid off. People could, Sky laid off about 30 members of staff.
Wow.
Why do people get laid off? Because there's no events to show. Because it's been this sort of pandemic has lost people their livelihoods.
Yeah, and could be another casualty of the pandemic
I hope
and
not.
that I really hope not, and I hope that this is all just a load of talk. And tomorrow we'll be laughing about it,
Hope so.
and it'll be back on for the 24th of July because it's round the corner, and I absolutely can't wait. But thank you, good Kenny.
As I said before, we have to wait and see. But at the end of the day, the quicker we have a situation where we just have to learn to live with this disease, with this pandemic. We're going to have to learn to live with it. But it's easy to learn to live with it if people are following the correct protocols and acting professionally.
Yeah, exactly. Come on, get the bubbles going, get it all doing good. Guys, thank you for watching Pep Talk UK, and thank you to Kenny Ken for joining me tonight. What a pleasure, mate. Where can people find you?
They can find me at KennyKen1972 on both Twitter and Instagram. And you asked me a question, Joe. You and Joe asked me a question regarding the football, and I forbade you, both of you, from saying it's coming home. I can't stop you now about even thinking about the possibility, because when teams are in the final of a major tournament, they've got a 50% chance of winning because both you're in it. So at the semi-finals, they had 25% chance of winning the Euros. Now it's 50%. You're free to say it's coming home if you want.
Guess what? It's coming home.
Okay.
It's coming home. It's coming home. Oh, I'm so excited. Where are you watching it Sunday? Kenny, very quick.
Well, I'm going to make sure. I've got to make sure that I'm with. I'm going to be watching it with family. Probably going to go family. So we're all going to be together celebrating because, one member. I've got in terms of both sides of my family, both sides of my kids' family, obviously. On my mum, she was around. She saw England win the World Cup in '66, and so did my parents-in-law see the England win the World Cup in 1966. So for them, they didn't think they'll see it again. But for me, it's new. Just seeing the England in the finals. As far as I'm concerned, England, I've won because I get that.
We've seen them in the final, yeah.
I get that final experience that the national sides in the final. I've seen it with the rugby. I've seen it with a few times with rugby with England. I've seen it in the cricket a few times, but with football, it's a first for me. So I'm grabbing it both hands.
And
England
I think
won, as far as I'm concerned.
it'll unlock new emotions. I think it will unlock new emotions because.
Well, at the moment, people are too shocked to even celebrate because no one knows. It's not England are not allowed to be in finals. We have to be in tears and saying what if only. We're not allowed. You're not allowed to. But I'll tell you one thing. I just hope that if we do get the final, I think the emotions are going to be. There's going to be tears because.
Oh wow! Yeah.
The reason why I think there'll be tears if England didn't win it is because you get so close. You can actually touch the trophy and then not be able to touch it. I think it will cause people some psychological damage.
Oh yeah.
I say it genuinely. I say it genuinely because
I'm being deadly serious. I think I'd cry.
The simple reason is you can't be that close. The semi-final,
exactly.
You're close, but not close enough. When you're in the final, you can win it.
Exactly. And I just can't wait. And the next time I'll be speaking to you, Kenny, we will either be the Euro 2020 champions or runners up. Oh, we'll see you soon.
I'll tell you one thing, mate. We have to wait and see. It's fun. The build-up's going to be fantastically fun. Anyway, I've got to let you go. Look
see you soon,
yourself.
and thanks for joining us.
My jam are out. See, no, only joking, Mike. I wish you the best.